24 hours a day, 168 hours a week, 720 hours a month, and over 8,700 hours a year, you have the time for inner work. But you haven't yet learned the lesson of sacrifice and the lesson of prioritization. I've got a multi-level question which I'm going to bring up on the screen in just a moment, but by the end of this video, you will feel like you have both the time and the energy to get everything that you want to get done in your regular adult life, as well as prioritizing your holistic health and your inner work process. First things first, before I bring up this question, you need to understand that you are not working on a day-by-day basis. Even if you take the 24 hours of a day and you take out the 8 hours that you need for sleep and the 2 hours for cooking and cleaning and showering and brushing your teeth, you have 14 hours per day. You then say, well, I have to go to work, and that's 8, 9, 10 hours a day if I'm commuting. There's only 4 hours per day. Yes, 4 hours seems like nothing, but just expand the concept to the week. 10 hours per day of resting and cooking, cleaning and self-caring becomes 70 hours over the week, which gives you 98 hours left over before everything else is included. That's almost 100 hours per week. You scale that out to the month, and then you have something like 400 hours per month. You scale it out to the year, and you get where I'm going with this. It's almost 5,000 conscious hours where you're not asleep or doing something just to keep your body going. You have a lot more time than you think. But the prioritization and the sacrifice of things that don't matter is the difference between you feeling overwhelmed by day-to-day things and feeling like you're in control of the day-to-day responsibilities, but also have a significant chunk of time and energy for deep trauma healing and conscious self-actualization work. Let me bring today's question up right on the screen. Let's read it together. I have a hard time juggling with my energy/time, and there's not enough time or energy in my day to do what I need, have, and want to do. Work, emotional healing, physical exercise, reading, social life responsibilities, learning an instrument, and resting. How would you choose what to focus on? Do I need to cut somewhere? I don't have enough time in a day. I don't have enough energy to go for everything I want to. Tips, suggestions, thanks. As I started on this video, I do believe that you have the time. Even if I break down what you're doing there, you've got the resting and looking after yourself, but the emotional healing and the physical exercise. And the reading. How many hours do you actually need per day for reading good psychology books, maybe reading a book like one that I have down here, there's a video in the process, Abraham Maslow. I keep recommending this book on the channel, The Farther Reaches of Human Nature, a classic self-actualization study, minds falling to pieces. How many hours per day do you need to read? I recommend my Shadow Work Library students to aim for at least 1 hour per day because they are committed paid students in the Shadow Work Psychology course and community. 1 hour per day, good landmine. Landmark. It's a landmine to step on. It's a landmine of knowledge and information. So I recommend that my students blow themselves up every morning or evening with Abraham Maslow's psychology for at least 1 hour per day. Ideally, an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours. Personally, I went for 4 to 6 hours per day of study because my personal study, my personal healing, and my professional role became blended. It became my work. Reading became my work, but it's unrealistic to imagine that most people can read psychology books for more than 1 hour per day, consistently, for an entire month and multiple months in a row. Let's go with 1 hour as the example. That counts as your emotional healing. It's bibliotherapy. What about your physical exercise? Your physical exercise could be 30, 45, maybe 1 hour per day. Let's go for 1 hour of physical reading, 1 hour of mental exercise, right? Go for 2 hours per day. You still got so many hours. The issue isn't the time. I am re-emphasizing this in a way that is mundane and boring. You might expect more complexity from me. I'm just trying to really get into your mind that you do have the time for reading and exercise and having a full-time job and resting and sleeping and eating and maybe having a few social experiences every now and then throughout the month. You do have the time. What matters is the energetic prioritization of really caring about something to bring you out of the low-charge, apathetic state of, it doesn't matter, I'll just skip today, especially with physical exercise, especially with reading difficult trauma psychology books. Unfortunately, you're placed in a bit of a lose-lose situation. If you're like today's questioner, you are very aware that you haven't got the energy to do everything that you want to do. But the way to get energy, more energy consistently for years ahead, if you're someone who's gone through childhood trauma, or maybe you've got a dysregulated nervous system because of some abusive relationship, or you've gone through an addiction process and you're in recovery, you've got an energy leak inside of you. Whether it's past trauma or bad choices in the present, the energy is leaking out. To clog up the energy leak, you need to do focused therapeutic work through self-study and maybe through working with a professional therapist or someone in a community. That's what we do in the Shadow Work Library. That takes a certain number of hours per week, for a certain number of weeks in a row, for a certain number of months in a row, and guess what? One day you will wake up and you feel like rather than being at 45% battery, you're at 75% battery. Of course, it's not overnight. This is something that works over weeks and months. You get more energy by doing the things that give you energy even when you're in a low energy state. That's the first major unlock for this video, especially when it comes to trauma healing. If you are reading a difficult PTSD book and you feel your energy leave you as you open up the very first page, you know that feeling, right? The feeling of, okay, I'm going to sit down today, I've got an hour on my calendar, time's available. You start reading, you're one paragraph in, and you find yourself sleepy, you find yourself dissociating, you find yourself disconnecting. There could be a variety of things happening, but it doesn't actually matter. You could go super technical about the traumatic protective mechanisms of some part or some particular aspect of your psyche that doesn't want to learn the information just now, and that might be completely true. For the sake of simplicity and the sake of forward momentum, it doesn't matter. You've set the time and you show up for the activity even if you're low energy. You read the trauma healing book even when you don't feel like doing it because it's not about the good feelings of the moment. If you prioritize the good feelings when you're going through a trauma healing process, you will not pick up the deep dark books with horrifying vignettes and case studies and anecdotes of people with all kinds of neuroses that remind you of the things that you went through. It takes courage and it takes consistency, but courage and consistency, crucially, through the low energy states and the high resistance moments where you do not want to do your morning reading, you do not want to go to the gym because something's happening in your body, it doesn't matter. I've been learning this firsthand as I'm nearly 4 weeks deep in a daily exercise challenge. I've been documenting this over on Instagram. This video may be released a month from now, in which case I'm probably 2 months deep into the challenge. I've been doing half an hour of gym, no matter what, every single day, because now I have a new home gym, I have all the weights I need, I can do the calisthenics, I can do the bodybuilding, and rather than my usual 4 to 5 days per week of training, I've decided to step it up into a new identity shift of I'm the kind of man who trains every day, no matter what. In the same way that for 5.5 years, I read books every day, no matter what, for about 4 to 6 hours per day on average. And again, don't replicate that, that's because it's my job, but I read for 4 to 6 hours per day consistently, even when I didn't feel like doing it because I had a reason to do it. This is where the video becomes something which ultimately is your responsibility. You have the time in the day. Your energy might be highs and lows, and maybe you could find the pockets of when I've got good energy, I'll do the reading, I'll go socialize, I'll do my job in the best way possible, but that isn't a reliable system. You need to be able to do the things even when the energy is low as you're healing. But the things that you choose to do must be ranked in terms of priority, and you must genuinely care about those prioritized activities because there's a real mission behind your daily choices. Case in point, you need to care about yourself. If you don't believe that you're someone who's worth fighting for, if your trauma's worth healing, the inner child within is worth comforting, the aspirations that you dream of secretly in your heart, they are worth materializing. If you don't care, you will not show up in the low energy states, and this is the real essence of the video. You might have clicked on this video thinking I'm going to give you practical time management tools, but I don't need to give you time management tools. You've got over 8,000 hours per year. You need a reason. You need a genuine reason. Even if you don't love yourself right now, and you find it difficult to get out of the apathetic states, there needs to be some form of mission. There needs to be an awakening in your soul where you can realistically, no matter what, you can fight the good fight on behalf of yourself. If every day feels like an energetic slog or an anxious juggling between all the different things that you need to do, you can center yourself in the storm if you're centered in your heart and your spirit, and you know that the work is meaningful because it's looking after your finances, maybe your family's finances as well. You know that the rest is meaningful and all the time spent eating healthy organic food, that's worth doing because it will restore your body and make you stronger and happier. And crucially, when you're doing the physical work, when you're doing the mental work, and when you're healing your body through a holistic approach, you need to care. The day-to-day responsibilities of showing up at a job when someone's telling you what to do, that doesn't necessarily depend upon you caring. You can just go through the motions like a robot. It's not the best way to live, but many people live in jobs where they can just get by. They can do a good enough job. If you're a business owner, sometimes, again, you do have maintenance mode where you're just showing up and going through the motions. You can maintain that for a while. To pick up the books, I've seen this in my shadow work library students, unfortunately, but also expectedly. Over the first 6 months of hosting my group coaching community, we've got over 130 members, and it would be very fair for me to say that over 70%, if not 80% of the members, at least at some point during their last 6 months of being in the shadow work library, they have had a period of time where they have not been able to pick up the books, they haven't cared for reading the psychology material, and time has just slipped through their fingers. It's not that they didn't have the time. They have told me that they spent too much time watching video games or hanging out with friends or even just excessively resting or excessively avoiding responsibility to go into their inner world with whatever the activity might be. They had the time. They admit to me they had the time, but they didn't have the energy and they didn't have the reason to care. And my responsibility, like in this video, whenever one of my students has fallen off the wagon, is I send them a voice note and I say, it's okay. We've all been there. You're not the first student who's told me this week. It's your responsibility in this moment, though. Show up to the Sunday seminar, and I will be there to help, and you can feed off the energy of the group again and be reminded why you joined this community in the first place. I don't necessarily say it that succinctly. I'm a bit more chatty. I'm a bit less serious. I'm not, charging in right away, but I do kind of carry that energy, more or less, most of the time. You should do it. I will fight for your potential. I'm not going to defend your excuses and defend your reasons not to show up and do the work, because I know in my heart of hearts that if you read several dozen of the psychology books I recommended on this channel, you will be in a position where you've got more energy on a day-to-day basis, because the emotional conflicts which are leaking the energy from the past, they will be sealed up. You won't have a leaky roof in your psyche. You won't have to deal with the droplets. You won't have to deal with the damage. It won't be a daily process of putting yourself together. You'll systematically put yourself together over multiple months through bibliotherapy, community work in the shadow work library, and also working with someone like myself or someone else who can keep you accountable to the process of working on yourself. But if you don't care, you don't care. It might be one of those moments in the video. Now what, Jordan? I actually just don't care. In which case, you're in a season of apathy. You're in a season of existential dread. You're in a season of maybe not wanting to be here. That's a different topic for a different video. I want you to be here. I want you to keep going. But even if you feel like you can't keep going for very much longer, just take what I'm trying to share with you. That it will get better, you will have more energy, and as you have more energy, you'll also feel like you're smarter and more clear-minded, and maybe you can make more discerning choices about where to prioritize your time. Maybe you go from working excessively long hours to working a more reasonable amount of hours, or you go part-time. Maybe you realize you've been wasting a lot of time and you go full-time in your work when you've actually been part-time. Maybe you scale your business upwards or downwards. You can start to make more of these decisions when you've consistently shown up for yourself. It's one step in front of the other. It's one page in front of the other. If you can aim for 1 or 2 psychology books per month, 1 hour of reading per day, 30 minutes, 40 minutes of exercise per day, going for a brief walk in the woods, resting for 8 hours per day, 2 hours of cooking and cleaning healthy, nutritious whole foods, some social time on the weekends or with your family in the evenings. You can do this. You can make it work. Just cultivate your reason to make it work. Really look inwards. Go into meditation, go into prayer. Sit with your journal. Why is this worth it? Ask yourself that question. Why am I worth it? Am I worth it? I don't think I'm worth it. I want to be worth it. How do I make myself feel like this is worth it? The emotional progression begins when you ask the first question. Check the comment section for support and stories, or you can check out this video on the screen for some more practical guidance and some of the psychology books you should start reading this week. I'll see you over there, and I'll see you down here. Good luck. Use your time wisely.